Hey everyone, welcome back to the UCC Podcast Club. Today's topic will be highly debatable questions. Let's get started.
Okay, so today we actually have two new members joining the podcast who weren't here last time. If we'd like to introduce them, we have Justin
What's up,
and we have Eli.
Hello.
Okay, so as Steven said, today's topic is highly debatable questions. So we're taking a step back from school stuff and political stuff, and we're trying to do something fun. So I'll get us started with, is cereal soup?
No. So that we can solve this question, we need to actually find out what is the definition of a soup if we really want to take this seriously.
Okay, what is your guys' definition of soup?
A drinkable chicken.
It's a liquid that is cooked.
No.
It has to be cooked.
Okay.
Here we go. A liquid dish typically savory and made by boiling meat, fish, meat,
Keyword
fish,
is typically,
or vegetable, etc. in stock or water.
Yes, soup has to be cooking down something, but it has to be cooking down something that's like
Hot.
a biological product, like
But what about
meat,
a cold-
a
Would
fish,
it be-
vegetable,
would it
and
be
boiling
raw?
it
Should
down.
well, I think the main difference is that soups are traditionally savory, whereas cereals are not. Cereal is just like flakes, Cheerios, like it's all just grain-based, bran-based flakes and such. Whereas soups have like meat and chicken and such. So.
You
Okay,
could call cereal just like an untraditional type of soup, right? It's
Yeah,
not
is chicken
savory.
noodle soup.
But why
Chicken
would
noodle
you?
soup is a grain.
Why is it necessary to call cereal soup?
Because the internet deems it necessary to classify it as either
Fair
soup
enough.
But it's
soup.
not though.
I mean,
Cereal's a cereal. It's not a soup.
True.
Agreed.
Okay.
This one has been passed around the internet for quite a while. Is water wet?
I'm going to abstain.
It
all
is
right,
not
yeah.
wet.
I've heard
is
like
not wet.
long arguments
Not
about
wet.
this. It's not wet.
It's not wet.
Does anyone
Why-
here claim that it is wet?
Never mind.
Oh, okay. Moving on. Next question.
I wanna hear-
Any
I wanna
controversy.
hear everyone's thought on this.
Come on, why do people have differing opinions?
Okay, I think that, again, we have to look at the definition, right? So water, being wet is the physical quality of having water on it, right?
So water has water on it, though.
Yeah, that's true. How
So
is
water should be wet.
Yeah,
but you
because
feel wet when you touch water.
but water's touching water all the time.
No, but water doesn't feel. But we feel. You feel?
How do you know?
What do you mean?
It's
water?
it's
Hey, bro.
possible for
Bed
like a
sheets.
rock to be wet.
I don't
bed
mean to be like a feel list or anything, but I'm pretty sure water doesn't feel wet.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sure it is wet.
I'm pretty sure
Like,
water
It
feels
feels
very
wet to us.
Like I mean, rock. If I
No.
took like a rock,
As
and,
in,
you
water
know-
doesn't feel itself. You feel?
Yeah,
I don't feel.
I mean, that's-
I don't feel it.
So,
Man.
like, no, listen, the physical quality of being wet is having water on it, right?
Okay.
Let's
but, like,
take-
if you're completely submerged in water, you don't know you're wet. It's only
You
when
are very much wet if you're...
No, but you don't feel
You
you're
are
wet, though.
very wet indeed if you're
You're
full.
only considered wet
Yeah.
if you're exposed to air again.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
If you dip your hand fully into water, then you're technically not wet. If once you pull your hand out of the water and your
Then
hand
you're
is
wet.
covered in water,
Okay, let's
How about
say-
this? How about
put it
this?
this way, right?
If
But then what do you
submerged
call
in
the
water-
state? But then what do you call the state where you dip when in which you're water?
Submerged. You were just
Let's say you
submerged.
throw...
Dry.
Let's say you throw a rock into the water, right?
Yes.
The rock is now at the bottom of the sea. Is that rock wet?
It is not wet.
The rock is
Submerged is
wet.
that's
It's only wet when it comes out. And
but no.
Definition of water, right? Let's just take the chemical formula. We're going back to school,
H2O.
right?
hey, bro.
Fine,
H2O,
fine.
right? How do you make a glass of water? You have trillions of
glass.
H2O. How do you make something wet? You surround something with H2O. H2O
No.
is surrounded by H2O. Therefore, H2O
Yeah.
is wet.
If water is covered
Okay.
with water,
How about
then-
this? I have a question. So a glass, when it's filled with water, probably wouldn't be considered wet. But when it just has, like, when you pour out the water and there's some water left, it would probably be considered wet. Why
Also,
is that?
That makes no sense.
No, but you wouldn't call the inside of a glass wet when it's filled with water, but you
Yes,
would.
you would.
when
It's
there's-
like me. If I
would.
jump into a pool and I'm like lying underwater, am I wet? Yes, I'm
No.
wet.
Yes,
you're not wet. If you're
But
completely
you're not
are wet. How are-
Underwater. If I'm lying underwater at the bottom of a pool, I'm wet.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. But the
Let's
thing
say you're at the
is-
bottom of the pool. I go down the bottom of the pool with you. I touch you, right? I don't feel that you're wet. I feel your skin. But once you come out of the water and I touch you, you're wet. That sounds weird.
Yo, why are you done?
That's cutting that. Cut that now.
How many holes are there in a straw?
None.
That's not an option. That's not an
What?
option.
That's not even an option. No one says there's no holes in a straw.
Yes, there are. It's just a tube.
There's one.
It's one
What if
hole.
there
It's
are
like,
no holes?
That
like
doesn't
a
mean that.
straw is like a very, very bad cylinder.
What if the holes are actually where there is stuff, and where there is not stuff is actually where there is stuff?
Okay, I guess like
That
okay, the
that doesn't make
argument-
a lick of sense.
Okay, the argument here is
What if
that
one
it
of
can
the
either
holes-
be one hole, one very long hole, two holes at either end, or no holes for some reason. If you're like Eli,
All right. So,
So-
I'm
first
just
of all,
joking.
what do you
There
consider
are.
what the function of this straw is, right? Since sometimes when you're like you have a plastic cover, there's like sharp edges on the plastic bottle cap that you usually use like for the plastic cups. I don't know, and then because of those plastic cups are so sharp, they make a hole in the straw. So does that mean that like is the straw supposed to be originally having a hole plus a hole?
Don't think that
Okay.
that is entirely correct.
If you took the straw,
You use the straw and you
compressed
stab it. You stab the straw into the
No,
top
we're
of
talking
the.
about a well-made straw. If you compress a straw, so it's just like basically a circle, well, how many holes does it have then? That's the answer. And I would
Yeah.
say that's one.
That's one because if you think about it, a straw is just a really, really awful cylinder. So I mean,
It's just a
got one
long
hole.
ring. That's what it is.
you guys know the concept of digging a hole, right?
Wait, what's a hole again?
You take a shovel.
Yeah, I don't know what a hole is. You need
Eli,
to
you're
hold it.
hilarious.
A hole
Okay,
is a hollow place in a solid body or surface.
right? But
Do you
the
have that
hole-
memorized?
These holes have one open side. They
Yes.
point towards the sky, and there's dirt on the other side. A straw points towards the sky and towards your drink. Therefore, it has two holes.
No.
I can guarantee.
I
I
have an
can
answer.
guarantee that that's
I have
wrong.
a
If you
comprehensive
have
answer.
Have you
a
seen the
ring-
movie Over the Hedge?
So no. In that situation though, right? If you think that a straw still has one hole, would digging a hole mean that it's only half a hole?
Oh,
No,
that is
because the-
smart.
Okay, but what
What?
happens?
No.
Nah, they're
No.
both
Okay,
one holes.
three holes.
Nah, they're both one holes. Okay,
Yeah,
But
because
one of
like
them has one
okay.
open side and one of them has two open sides.
Nah, but like
The concept
there's
of
a
hole is an
okay.
open side.
Imagine there's a tunnel that you go through, right? When you go through a tunnel, you're going through one end, coming out the other end, right? Do you say you're going through two tunnels? Because that's the same as saying calling it two holes.
No, you go through one direction.
That's literally
Therefore,
what a
it's
straw
like
is.
it's one tunnel,
A
right?
straw is a small
But
tunnel.
There's
Therefore,
two
when you go through
entrances.
one
One hole.
tunnel, that is one hole in a straw.
Okay, if it's a road, right? There's two directions. Cars pass either way. The two
Yes.
Roads aren't holes. You can't use that
meaning
example.
There's two tunnel entrances, meaning there's two tunnels. There's not two tunnels.
there is
one
not.
tunnel.
There is not.
There's
It's like
one
saying
tunnel.
it's like saying if you have like a road where you have cars going down it and cars coming up it. That's
There's
like saying
two
there's two roads.
Right,
There's
I don't
not
think
two
anyone
roads.
considers-
There's one
yeah.
road divided into two
That makes
portions.
sense, actually.
Okay, I digress.
Maybe just compare a
But
road to a tunnel.
okay, a tunnel is not the same thing as a hole. A tunnel.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. It's
tunnel
literally
is a
hole
a
in a
tunnel is
cylinder.
literally an exceptionally long hole that
Agreed.
has like another end.
True.
Another end. There, you see what I mean? Okay.
Yeah, but a hole doesn't
one
necessarily have to
Okay,
have
but
another
you
end.
wouldn't-
It
would
could
you
be an endless. It
describe-
could be an endless hole. You could have a one-ended hole, and it would still be a hole.
Would you describe a tunnel as a hole?
Yes,
Okay,
Hey,
I
take
an
think
exceptionally
subway,
long
though.
one.
They have
Okay,
one
Albert's
line
trying
to
to
describe
say-
all those stops. It's only one tunnel. They don't name like the different parts of that one tunnel.
Imagine like you were going like down a road, and it's called like, and then you're going up the road, and it has two different names because it's two different roads.
Wait.
Okay,
How,
what
how does a
Albert's
black
trying
hole
to
look like?
say.
Hold on. How does a black hole look like?
Eh,
What's the
I-
A
bottom?
black hole isn't a hole.
You go
Black hole
through
is
one end.
It,
come out the
isn't it
other
like
end.
I remember? I actually
It's a singular black hole.
But then
No, a
there's just-
black
but
hole
then
is
you know
not
there
even
has-
a hole.
there
It
has
doesn't
been-
have
there
anything to
has
do
not
with
even a
it.
hole. Are you?
It's a
this-
hole.
But
Don't worry
No,
about
a
it.
But then
black
there has
hole
been
is
a
a
few-
giant mass that
It's-
has
it's-
insane gravity.
That's actually true, though. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah,
hole. It's actually just
a black hole is just like a great big entity that has such immense gravity. It sucks in everything, including light. That's what a black hole is.
yeah. It looks like a hole. It makes a
Wow.
hole because light doesn't escape from it.
So.
Guys, I have a thorough answer.
Black hole.
I have a thorough answer. Okay, in physics, there's two terms for two different types of holes. There's a through hole and a blind hole. A blind hole is a hole that you can see the entrance for, but there's no exit. So let's say, and this is how you study different things and find out how many holes there are in different things. If you look, a good example is a mug. If you look at a mug, some people would say there's two holes, one for where the drink goes in, and where the handle is, right? The handle like connected to the side. However, that contains two different types of holes. A blind hole, which means that there's a hole at the top, but it doesn't actually open up on a second end, and the through hole, which has two ends on each side. And the way that you find out how many through holes and blind holes there are is if you mold it into like a circular shape, how many holes there are, how many different through holes there are, and
So
based on that you can find how many holes there are. So if you flatten down a straw, then there's one through hole, and there's no blind.
a straw, ergo
Wow.
a through hole, has one hole.
Is chess a sport?
Yes,
Yes.
hunting is a sport.
It's brain sport.
How are you going to compare
still a
chess to
sport.
hunting?
Yeah, that's true. Like,
Both
I
of them
mean,
don't require excessive physical activity, but they're more about the mental state, right? And like
Exactly.
when you call hunting, you literally call it sport. So, I think
Is
that's
fishing
The
a sport?
definition of a sport is using your physical like body. Brain is still a part of your physical body. So if you're using your brain and your hands, that's a sport.
Okay, but
So
then
it's
that
not
would
a
that would
fishing
be
is a
doing
sport.
doing anything as a sport. You use your
Yeah,
brain for
could
literally
be.
everything you do.
It could be.
No, but it should probably be like through a competition or something. That's
Yeah.
it.
There is a chess competition.
so
Yeah,
you could like have typing as a sport then, because it's
Yes.
Like, if it was in a
No.
competition, I'd say it's a sport. Yeah,
There is a competition, so yeah, it's a sport.
It's a sport.
There we go.
everything.
Okay, would you guys rather use a spoon, a fork, or a
Spoon.
knife for the rest of your life? And
Fork.
Jake, explain your case.
fork. Actually, no, I agree. Spoon, definitely.
Listen,
Knife.
okay.
Knife.
Do you want to know just
Knife.
what you can do?
Bro,
Well,
how can
depending
you
on
cut
how
a
you
steak with
angle-
a spoon?
You could
The-
you could
you
easily
can
cut a
definitely do
steak
that.
with a spoon.
I did that once,
If you
Justin.
have enough gumption, you can cut anything with a spoon.
No,
Wait,
I
yeah.
think
So
that you
let's,
should only use a knife because
Knife
you
in
can
hand?
use your hands for everything else.
How are you gonna
can't
have
cut with
soup?
your hands or
How
a
are you gonna have
spoon or
soup with a
fork.
knife? Right?
Take the bowl.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can
exactly.
or hold the
Just
bowl.
drink it from the bowl like a barbarian.
Let me tell
Or
you
just
from
don't
experience
Whoa,
what
whoa,
you can
whoa,
do with a
whoa.
spoon.
Drink soup
Whoa.
Okay,
You
I
can
think
cut a steak with a spoon. You can drink soup with a spoon. You can, I don't know, just eat anything.
I agree because
without
I
having to
don't
touch it.
agree. I don't
if you
think
have a
you can-
I don't agree.
I don't think you could cut a steak with a spoon.
I
Oh,
think if you had
oh,
enough
you wanna
gumption
challenge
and
me?
if you had enough time
I did
and
that before.
if you had enough time and willingness to do it, you
Okay,
could do
but most people don't, right? You know what's a better efficient
Yeah, it's
better
like
tool to cut
just use a
steak?
knife.
Your teeth, right? All you need in life is a fork. You can have anything with a fork. You can have rice with a fork. You can have steak with a fork. You just
Oh yes, I
snap it
love
and
having
bring it up
cereal
your
with
mouth.
my fork.
I,
You don't
no, no,
need
no,
a spoon to
drinking
have cereal.
milk with my
Just hold-
fork.
Hold your face.
You realize how like bad
can-
that would be to like try and cut the entire steak with your teeth? That would be like
That'd be
that'd
like
be so much worse.
delicious.
to eat this
Okay,
steak.
I
mess.
cut an
The
entire
mess.
steak with a spoon.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just-
honestly,
exactly.
You could actually do
you
that.
can definitely cut things with a spoon. Like if you use
Exactly.
an edge and you're like,
That doesn't
thwap
mean
it.
you should. That doesn't
Yeah,
mean
Doesn't,
cut
it
an apple
doesn't
with a
mean you
spoon.
should. This
Yeah.
is
Nice.
not
Like
an
cutting an apple with
optimal
a spoon.
situation. Being forced to use only one type of cutlery is
You don't
not
even need to
optional. But the most
Steven, but
optional
using
way
a
is to have a
knife is
spoon.
Steven, you don't
Yo.
even need to smack it multiple times. Just
Yeah, you
literally
can just-
force it. Just
Okay.
like put a little
Let's say-
pressure on it. There we go, it's
manhandle
cut.
the spoon into
Let's say
cutting
this
the steak.
applies and you're stranded on a desert island. A knife is obviously gonna do you better.
Yeah, but that's if you're stranded on a desert island. Like you could use a knife to like. You could probably
But
use
for
the
the
hilt.
rest
You
of
can
your
use the
life.
hilt of a knife to like break coconuts. You can kill like fish or whatever. But I mean, like if you're on a stranded island, definitely it's a knife because you can hunt. You can break coconuts.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So knife
But
is-
we're not on a stranded island. We're
Exactly.
in Canada.
anyone can get stranded, you know.
Yeah, I know, but I don't intend to, and I
It
don't
can
think
happen
any
to
of us.
anyone.
Different situations require different tools.
Yeah.
And depending on what the situation are, if it's on our situation right now, oh, we're at home and then, oh, we don't have anything to do. I would rather have a spoon than any other cutlery. On a
Yeah.
spoon.
Why?
If we were in
Well,
the
I still
situation
don't
we
get
are
it. I still okay. What do you?
I'm
use a
so
spoon-
familiar with it. I can.
What do you?
Because if
What do
you-
you
you
use
know
a
what you could
spoon
do?
for?
You could take the spoon and you could transform it into a spork. Now you have 2 out of 3. And then if you
That's
use
breaking
the
the
side,
rule.
if you use the side of the spoon, you could, if this is allowed, you could sharpen it down, and now
I
you
don't
have
think
all
that's
3 in
allowed.
one. You have a
That's
spoon
breaking-
spork
That's
now.
just break. Okay.
But why not? Literally, you sharpen the
Breaking
side of the spoon, you cut out some bits on the front, and you have all 3.
Steven.
Every
Yeah.
time you have
If you
soup, you're
eat
gonna cut
cereal.
your mouth.
Yeah, I know, but that's a
Some
sacrifice.
people-
This
Bad
is
idea.
suboptimal. This whole
Worth it.
situation
It's
is
worth
very
it.
Some people
suboptimal. You
have
have
so
to
much
understand.
You know, some people have so much prestige with a spoon that they can eat one-handed, only with a spoon, even with a flat plate.
Spoon
You don't need. They get, yes, spoon prestige.
Eli, what would you
They
have
can do that.
for the
A
rest
knife.
of your life? Why?
A knife.
Is that your case?
100%. Because you can cut a steak, you can do anything with a knife. You can use
I'll
your
take a
hands for
chopstick,
literally
You can do that
everything
too with a spoon.
except for
You can
cut.
cut
No,
a
you
spoon.
can't.
You can cut a. I almost
That's
said.
not like useful though.
But why?
Why
you
would
could
you just want to
sharpen
cut
the
stuff,
side.
right?
That's
Yeah, I
totally
know,
not
because
the
cutting
point,
stuff
Steven.
isn't all there
If
is.
you have the gumption. No.
Hey, bro.
You absolutely could.
You don't
That's
even, like,
absolutely
cut.
right.
You
You
got
could
the
I just
cut.
want to throw this out there.
If you had the
I'll take a
gumption, you could-
chopstick any day.
Why?
I
That's the worst
agree.
one.
I agree. I would
I
most
think chopstick's the alpha here.
No,
I just
that's
wanna
actually
take
the
time-
worst one.
Oh yeah, I
just
love.
want to take the time to
Good luck
understand-
eating a steak with a. Good luck eating.
I want to take the time to understand Eli's case, right? Eli's saying that he would have a knife because he could go to dinner, sit down, cut a steak, and be done.
And eat it with my hands, you child.
And also you could
Eat it
stab.
with your hands.
Don't you love eating cereal with a knife?
Don't
You
you,
can
love?
stab things too and eat
You can
them.
pour cereal into your mouth. I think that having a knife is just more efficient overall.
There
That's
are
the
people
only
that can
reason.
eat.
If
There
it
are
was
people
like
that
for
can.
pleasure and stuff, for eating and stuff, I would for sure take a spoon.
Okay.
What
But
about
for
Here's
knife,
why.
skewer?
just
Here's
look
why.
at
You
it.
But I mean,
can-
if you like, I mean, it goes back to Noah's point of being stranded on an island. Like we aren't in
Okay.
particularly unique
Okay, but like,
circumstances
if
other
you got a
than this.
spoon, like, sure, you can try to cut a steak, but like,
Yeah.
we should all know it ruins the texture of the steak. You feel? It's not
I
going to be
feel-
good.
I would
Exactly.
rather have a ruined steak and have a spoon.
Wait, true. Yeah,
You
by
can
the time,
do everything else with your hands. Your hands cannot work as knives.
Yeah.
That's like
The only thing your hands can't do is be a knife. Like,
See,
you can
Steven,
like
you
cut
can
your
cut
cereal.
be a knife.
Cook it.
You can
But I
like
mean-
The
tear stuff
imaginary
apart.
You
invalid.
can just poke something with your fingers, but you can't cut a steak with your hands.
Chop.
You can, even
You
poke
can still cut it with a
your knife.
spoon.
You can take
Yeah,
it on
It
the
ruins the
bottom.
texture.
We've already
Texture
gone
is
down
important.
Who cares about texture when you're stranded?
Well,
You're not stranded.
not talking about
I
stranded.
thought we just clarified that we aren't stranded. We clarified that we're in the
Okay,
same
okay.
situation, complete same situation as we are right now, with the exception of the fact that for some reason we have a cutlery curse.
In
So-
a civilized society, we value the texture of the food, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we are forced to cut a Michelin 3-star steak with a spoon,
You
I would rather cut it
I
with
mean,
a knife.
no. Have you watched the live action Robin Hood where the guy's like, "I'll cut your heart out with a spoon"?
But
See, like,
that's not. It's not Robin Hood, my guy.
no, but,
Robin Hood, are you
but I mean,
I still stand by my fork. Would you rather wake up in a desert, Like-
Yes.
the middle of the desert, or wake up
Hmm.
stranded in the middle of an ocean? Obviously,
Oh.
like
Wait, hold
Desert.
on.
Desert
Middle
all
of the
day.
ocean
Desert
or
any
a
day.
body of water.
a body of water.
Okay. Now this is why body of water is better.
Yeah.
You see, a body
Because
of
it
water can be anything. It
I
can be
think
a
body-
bathtub, it can be a swimming pool, it can be a pond, it can be a lake, it can be a river, it can be an ocean. But desert is just a desert. So you're screwed if you're in
okay.
the desert, right?
If it's
It's
just
just
a body of water, if it's just a
No, no,
body
no,
of
no.
water, so long as you end up in like fresh water and you aren't in a lake that's too big, chances are
Okay.
you'll
Actually, you know what?
survive.
Yeah,
But if
let's
it's
change it up.
ocean-
Let's say it's the ocean. It's the
You
ocean.
realize
If
that
it's
like
the
the
saltwater ocean.
most of
Desert
the
any
world is
day.
ocean, and you're much less likely to find civilization if you're
Yeah,
in
no. If you're in a desert, first off, if you're in an ocean, if you don't have water, you can't drink the seawater because that's salt water.
You
That's not
can't
gonna
drink
work.
water in the
Right.
desert either.
Yeah, I know, but
There's
like,
an
Find the
oasis.
What do
That's
you
much
mean?
better.
yeah.
Find
Plus,
the
if you're
oasis.
in the desert, well, wait. If you're in the ocean, are you on a raft or are you just floating there? Because if
You're
you're
on
just
a raft.
floating there, you're going to die. Like,
yeah, you're on a
Oh, you're
raft.
on a raft?
You're just you're on a raft, but you're in the middle of the ocean.
What do you
Also,
have?
the
Okay.
ocean's
What
much
supplies
what's the
do you have?
quality of
Swimming.
this raft?
If it's
Is it like a
swimming, it's
log?
much better.
Or, if
What
it's
supplies do
swimming,
you have?
Let's say for both situations, you have enough food for a week.
And do you have like a mirror and
Okay,
stuff,
desert
like
for
to
sure,
signal
desert for sure.
things, like to
Nah,
signal
I'm
planes
doing
and
a
boats
desert.
coming by?
do you have
No, you
have a fire starter and do you have a mirror?
We're not like survival.
Okay, I think that if you have a mirror on both, I think that the ocean is far superior. Because when you're in the desert, nobody's passing by on planes that are lower than like 20,000 feet. Nobody's
you
going to
never
see you.
know.
Okay,
if
but you
fill them with a
could
mirror.
land.
Eli,
But
you
if there's a
never know.
cruise
You
ship or
might-
a cargo boat coming
No.
by, they're always
I can guarantee, but the ocean is so vast.
This is why desert is better, okay? If you're stranded in the desert, you might find the Petit Prince and you might learn more about your instinct.
La
learn
Joie de
more about your
Saint
inner self. You learn life lessons.
You
Okay?
might find the
In the
well.
ocean. In the ocean,
look-
you'll be able to use salt water and like heat it up somehow and generate fresh water. So that's
Generate-
one,
But how?
one way
Yeah,
to
how would you?
get
So
water.
I mean, you could do it if you could like collect the vapor, but that seems
What are
way
you
too.
talking
time
about? You just boil
No,
salt
but then
water, the
also
salt
you can
boils
also
off.
catch fish and stuff. So you have a food source as well. What are you gonna do in the desert? Start shoveling sand in your mouth?
Nah, you eat a camel. You eat a camel. You hunt a
You
camel.
need
Might
to
have
get
some
a.
nutrients.
You
What are the
can
odds of finding a camel in a desert?
just
No, wait, hold
call
on.
for a
If you
dromedary.
Not the way it works.
chop the
Hump is that? Are you thinking
no,
about
not the hump.
camels?
I forgot.
Camel.
Foot.
You use
Head.
it as shelter. The camel.
Alright,
Yeah,
but
you
okay,
use the camel as a shelter.
Like
alright.
you know in the
This is-
Revenant how he kills that bear and sleeps
And
inside.
it lives inside it.
Yeah.
If you chop the
Exactly.
cactus, there's water inside the cactus.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but there's not
That's
that
true.
many cactus in a desert.
What do you
That's
mean?
true.
Die.
That's
Unless you're
true,
like,
like,
in,
in-
unless
the
you're
Great
like in
Pyramid of
California or
Giza.
something or Arizona, but that's
Yeah,
not
if
fully
you're in like the
completely desert.
Arizona or California desert, you're probably fine. If you're in the Sahara desert, you're
No, you're
probably gonna
not.
die.
Yeah, but
California- what's it called?
Desert.
Like-
I would just consider it
The,
dry.
it's called
Yeah,
called like
that's
Sonoran
not-
Desert.
Death Valley. You're gonna die. That's like hotter
Okay,
than.
but like here's the thing. There's more tourists at a desert than in the middle of a Pacific Ocean.
Exactly.
So if
And
you
I was
I, as a
rather-
buy,
tourist, would not go to a desert.
I mean,
I
I
would
would
not
go to
go
a
to.
desert.
I would not go
Dude,
to a
there's-
place called Death Valley.
I think there's a lot more caravans in the desert than there is in
Exactly.
the
just
ocean.
randomly find some people on like camels.
if you're in a desert like near
That's-
Dubai, there's any tourists all around.
Yeah, that's
you.
true. If
Go,
you're
like,
if you're
help.
on if you're on the Arabian coast, so long as you're not in Yemen, you'll possibly be okay. If you're in like
What's that supposed to mean?
well, because if you're like near if
Think
you're
you're
near
gonna like stumble into some terrorist cell while you're
while you're in the middle of the desert. But like, I mean, if you're near like a country like if you're near a city like Dubai, Bahrain, or something like that, you'll probably if you are you'll
No, but
you'll
Steven,
have a better
your
chance.
point
of
is doesn't make sense though. That's like saying well, if you're standing in the middle of the ocean, but if you're 5 kilometers off the coast of a city, then you'll be fine. Like that doesn't make
yeah, I
sense.
know, but like there's a bigger
if you're
chance.
next to a city in the desert versus in the ocean, it doesn't matter.
now there's a bigger
no, but the
chance of
ocean
getting
is so
stranded
much
in the
bigger
middle of
than
an ocean.
desert.
Yeah,
There's so much more
exactly.
ocean than desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're stranded, if it's random, there's a much bigger chance you'll be in the middle, like thousands of kilometers away from the nearest land. Whereas if you're in the desert, that's a much smaller place. I know it's still absolutely.
My
huge.
only concern is that like when you're in the desert, like you have a lot shorter lifespan than if you would be on in the ocean, just because
You've
it's so
no
hot.
How is that?
Like you're gonna
Ah.
be dehydrated so quickly,
No, but
Doesn't
it's
and you
matter.
have to
cold in the
walk.
night.
Yes,
to actually
but at
find
night,
some
exactly.
Cool at
At
night.
night, it became so cold. That's
That's
exactly
true. It
the
actually
thing.
does become really cold in the
Exactly.
No,
Okay, but you'll have to go for 12 hours just in
No,
the
you
glare
get
of the sun.
dehydrated. You get dehydrated more quickly in the ocean because you know how the sun reflects like off the water that like increases the ray of the sunlight. That means the sunlight is more intense.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant if you have more resources in the ocean.
But
You don't, though.
actually,
Yes,
as
you
long
do.
as
Where
you
is the
have good
food source in the
sandals,
middle of the
you'll be
desert?
fine.
Where's water sources in the middle of the desert? Those are
But
two
where's-
vital things you need to survive besides shelter.
But how can you? But how? How can like what are you gonna do? Start tearing off your raft to cook something? How are you gonna cook something?
Yeah, how are you
With a
supposed to
fire?
catch something?
Don't
You're
have
gonna
to
burn
eat-
a fire.
What do you
from-
mean? You don't have to cook sushi to eat it.
Yeah, but wait. So
Wait, how are you gonna
raw
get
fish.
sushi?
How
Like,
are
how are you supposed to get
raw fish,
sushi?
With your
Eat
hands.
raw fish.
Uber
You don't
Eats,
have to
Uber
cook
Eats.
How are
it.
you supposed to catch fish? We never said you have like a pole or anything.
Exactly.
So then, how are you supposed to get food in the desert? We never
Well,
said
you're-
there's no
You
oasis.
beat the camel.
You have supplies. He said you have
have to
How do you know
supplies.
there's a camel though?
Yeah, that's true.
The
You
desert.
don't
But
know
it's
there's a-
better because there's caravans.
because it's in the
So
desert.
then you should find fish if it's the ocean.
Yeah, but
like,
how
the
are you
fish swims deeper? you
find
know?
fish in the ocean? Wow, I can't believe I didn't. Like it's so big. There's not. It's hard to catch fish. without
Alright.
like
And
equipment.
it's even harder to find a random camel wandering around. In
Yeah,
that
Yeah, I
whole
know, but
desert.
the thing is, I never. Only Justin was talking about the camel, not me.
But
so.
there's another twist.
Then how are you
There's
going to
another-
survive? I
There's
think that
another
it's more likely
twist.
that you catch a fish before you die than just dying in the middle of the desert. Like
But
there's more
there's
chance that you're going to live longer in the ocean.
Would you think? Would you think it would be much more mentally taxing to be in the middle of the ocean or to be in the middle of the desert?
Middle of the
Ocean, for
desert.
Both would suck, but
Both
I
would
No.
be horrible.
I would rather prefer desert because there will be no storms at night when I sleep. So when I wake up, I'm suddenly in heaven. I'll be surprised.
Sandstorms, dust storms.
that's true. That is a
That's still
consideration.
protectable. You
Is
just
that
need a rock.
if you're in the middle of the ocean, you'll have to contend with like large waves and the risk of if you capsize, everything on your raft sinks. And
Well, apparently we don't have anything on our raft.
but Albert said you have a week's worth of food and presumably drink as well. So you have that. But the thing is, if you're in the desert and there's a sandstorm, that is awful as well. But your stuff can't sink and disappear.
And it's
so
much
I
more
feel like it's
survivable.
yeah,
Think
it
about how much
could.
sand is in a sandstorm.
It absolutely could, but I feel like if your raft capsizes versus if you're with your stuff in the middle of a sandstorm, then there's a much better chance of you being like not losing your stuff in the sandstorm than if your raft
Right.
capsizes.
Do you guys think time travel is ever going to be possible?
No.
No. Well,
I
in the
mean,
future,
depending.
it is possible, right?
To the
Like, if
future,
you go-
yes. To the past, no.
Yeah, if you go in like a
But-
spaceship, then you can like I don't
No,
know.
No.
but it's so crazy, like all that butterfly effect stuff, like
Yeah. I mean, no. To the future
no,
is much
it's-
But
better.
there is
it's-
no butterfly effect to go in the future.
I
No,
guess
but,
I should.
The question is
rephrase
if
the
it's
question.
possible, not like should we do it. So,
It
like,
is
do we-
possible.
Like, would
Is it
we have the
possible?
technological ability to?
you would have
Time
to move
travel.
faster than light. Unless
No.
no,
Faster
I'll
than
rephrase
light
it
is to go to the
possible.
past.
I'll rephrase the
Fast
question.
enough is to go to the future.
I'll
That's what I
rephrase
learned,
the-
actually.
I'll rephrase the question just because I think that everyone knows it's possible to do time travel. So I think I'll just ask, do you think that people in the future are going to time travel?
Well,
No,
yeah,
I
The
don't.
rich
I
will.
don't think they will, because if you think about it, it's just way too risky. Like once again, the butterfly effect. If people in the far future
Yeah.
come back to now, like you have no idea how that would impact the world, how it would impact society, whatever.
Exactly.
No,
So-
but I feel like
Well, I don't know
Oh,
about
good
the past,
connection.
but the future, I definitely see someone doing it going into the future, like because that's the one that's physically possible. I don't know about
Exactly. Yeah, because like I don't know. I watched this one sand video once. I'm a nerd, I know, but like I learned that like it's much easier. It's much plausible to actually go into the future because you just need to move fast. Because then the time dilation starts. But then to go back to the past, you need to move faster than light, and that's much less possible than there is to move close enough to the speed of light, than past it. But which is
Well, Steven, I don't really think you're talking about the right thing. I think you're talking about something that's talked about when like something's moving away from you at the speed of light. It looks like it's not moving, kind of thing. Which
Mm.
means that like you're not technically speeding up time if you're coming close to the speed of light. It's not like light is defined as time or something or whatever. But basically, when let's say you're moving, a clock is moving away from you at the speed of light. Some people could say, "Oh, well, it stopped time because it looked like it's not moving." But really, what's happening is the light will always be hitting your eyes at the same time on the clock, because the light will always be hitting you because the clock is moving away at the speed of light. So the same light will be hitting your eyes constantly, right?
Mm.
What about faster than the speed of light? What's going
technically-
to happen with the clock
technically-
then?
It will appear as if you're in the future or the past, but you won't actually be.
Would you prefer to go to the future or the past?
That's a good one, actually.
Future.
Past.
Actually, no, future definitely.
Yeah,
'Cause
future.
if any time in the past before like the 50s and 60s is going to really not be that fun
Yeah, I mean, sure.
at
But
all.
then you
Like-
you want to uncover those
Genghis, though.
secrets, right? You want to uncover those
Yeah, but
mysteries.
like what secrets would you uncover? You could go back to ancient Egypt where you wouldn't be able to like, interact
the
with them.
disappearance of populations of entire people suddenly
Like where? Are you talking about in
The
like
Mayans? You could
in
go
like
to the
Easter? If you went to the
Mayans,
Mayans, you'd probably be killed by smallpox. If you went to Easter
No.
Island, you'd be
But don't we have? But we have vaccines.
Yeah, but like, we don't know what it's like in the future either, right? Like,
I know the future
You say
is
all these
but-
terrible stuff about the past.
Yeah.
Like we're in the
Yeah, but I
midst
know.
of.
But if you think like it, but the future, I imagine, because in the past we already know for a fact that it's going to be an awful and terrible place to be for all
The
of us.
future can still have
The
that.
future can.
future could
but
be
we do
worse.
not know. We do not know that for sure. It's possible.
Well,
that
you
we
also don't
achieve
know for
utopia.
sure how bad it's
We're
going to
already
be.
retracing.
Wait,
that.
why can't you go to the good times in the past?
Like when, like okay, what before the 50s and 60s would you want to go to?
Like, I kind of want to go to like the Renaissance age. You know, feel?
You would die of the Black
Yeah.
Death.
Hey,
plus
like,
that was
You could
back when.
avoid that. You could
You want to
avoid
know plus the standard of hygiene back then? Like people just threw their shit into the streets, like all across Europe. That's what
You
happened.
never
wasn't
know. We might do that
everywhere.
again in the
The
future.
Romans had sewage.
Yeah, the
Nah,
Romans
you know-
had sewage, but then the rest of Europe just didn't adapt it.
Yeah, but Renaissance didn't. But Renaissance is Italy, which is Rome.
Yeah.
I also think
But
if
the
we go
Roman
back in
Empire was
time-
1,000 years before the Renaissance.
If we go back in time, I think we'd all just be like really bored. Cause like
Why would we be?
No, I think it'd be
feel
cool
like I
to
don't
see-
think
It'll
I don't
definitely
think
be
we would
boring.
be bored. I think we would have the exact opposite problem. We first off, the standard of living and standard of hygiene would be abysmal. Second off, there's a much higher chance of us being enslaved, die of disease, die in war.
Well, you could say the exact same thing about the future. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah,
we
but
don't
there's
know
but
if
we
we
know
can
for a
say-
fact just how bad the past was because we have recorded evidence of what happened. But
Yeah,
in the
but it wasn't like
not
it's just
certain.
dark ages all the time. You know?
yeah,
Yeah, it
exactly.
wasn't.
Were
It
good
wasn't the
times.
dark ages all the time, but like before, if you go, like if you were to go back to like maybe the 70s or like the 60s or 50s, then it would be
That would be boring because it would be too. It would be like today, but with less
No,
technology.
but
What do you
Steven,
mean it would be like today? There's a bunch of things happening. That was at the height of the Cold War.
Steven, this is kind of
But
covering
the
like
Cold
an
War wasn't
underlying
interesting to
question.
be in. It was just like, okay, we might get nuked, we might not be. It wasn't like,
No, that's
is
boring, is it?
Going into this is just about like an underlying question of would you rather do something that you know is bad, like you already know that there's going to be something bad happening, or would you select the other option of going through something that you don't know about, like going into the unknown? It could be good or it could be bad.
Wait, in the future, if we don't know, couldn't that mean it's worse
yeah, exactly.
theoretically?
Technically.
Because like with advancements of technology, right? What if you just go into nuclear war, we just all die? You know?
Exactly. Well, I guess we can end today's podcast there. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you guys in the indefinite future.